We're coming up to the 1-year anniversary of Raw on Netflix, and I must say that there has been some really good stuff, and there has been some stuff that has just been, it's been okay. But where I thought that they did kind of drop the ball with this whole partnership so far has been the lack of content. Like, we got WWE Raw, we got it every Monday night, but there is no additional content out there, the original stuff. And that's what I was hoping to see for their first year, to come out of the gate and give fans even more to watch. The one thing that they did release was going to be the WWE Unreal series, and you tell me if you like that or not. I thought it had some really captivating spots to be able to highlight some of the superstars, but then in other moments I just kind of thought it was silly and self-indulging. And Raw itself, when we got the January show, you had everybody showing up for the premiere, you got the TKO people out there, you got Rock out there, and everybody's just glad-handing themselves and super excited for themselves that we were doing this. We saw the influx of advertising on the ring, and that has stayed until today. One of the things WWE and Netflix did that I personally have not been a big fan of recently was the additional advertising happening, not in the ring, in the show, just cutting to advertisement, to commercial breaks during the show. I know we would always get the loop, we still do, of they'll be right back, or you're seeing the continuation of a match. But for Raw and for PLEs, I'm in Canada, and there is an uptick in the amount of commercials I'm getting. And I gotta say, I don't really care for that, because I'm paying for the premium Netflix, which is probably going to go up if I had to just hazard a guess right now with, you know, the news of Netflix acquiring WBD, and when that gets finalized, you gotta imagine that Netflix bill is going up, man. Now, with Monday Night Raw and the storylines and what we got specifically on Raw for 2025, I'll keep hammering home that there is plenty throughout 2025 that I did enjoy. But this video is to examine some of the pitfalls and down moments that I think hindered Raw overall. So many people in the comments will just say it's all Triple H's fault, but we're gonna have a healthy conversation here. So let's begin with WrestleMania season on Raw. One of the things that I felt didn't end up helping Raw was the John Cena Cody Rhodes story being so heavily featured on Raw. Now hear me out for a minute. Yes, it is great that John Cena is on Raw and SmackDown for his retirement tour and doing all of that and leading to WrestleMania. They had him on both shows. They have a number of dates available for John. Of course he's going to be on Raw, but you're bringing your WWE champion, who's firmly established on SmackDown, over to Raw almost every week. And I felt that hurt Raw, because you're doing a 2 to 2 hours and 20-minute show every week, and because you had John Cena, Cody Rhodes headlining Raw throughout WrestleMania season, I think it's actually a detriment to the World Heavyweight Championship that you were trying to establish. It really made everything else feel secondary or third. And again, I'll say this, I understand 100% why you would want to do that. John Cena, Cody Rhodes, Cena turning heel. It's your big WrestleMania story. It's your main event of night 2. Of course you want to market it. Of course you want it plastered on every show every week to tell that story. So I say this by saying I understand why WWE would want Cena on TV every week to push the story. I just felt that it took away from what else could have been told during those periods, and you're taking up 20-minute, 30-minute segments on Raw. Now, switching gears, something that is still struggling, and I feel like in 2026, I'm going to stay optimistic, and I think that it's going to get really, really good, I hope. The Raw Tag Team division. For most or all of 2025, it has been something that is completely uninteresting to me. It never got off the ground. I never found there was any stories involved with any of the teams. It was just about people wanting to get tag team titles, and for the longest time we've had Judgment Day hold those belts. One of the big moments, and it was in 2024 technically, it's the breakup of the New Day, was like moment of the year of 2024. So going into 2025 with the tag division, because that happened in December, I believe, I really thought that they were going to come out swinging. New Day was going to be on fire as a team, and they were going to do some really interesting, compelling stories. I don't feel like we got that much when it came to the tag division. You had New Day as heels, and we still do, and I do like them as heels. You have the Judgment Day still kicking around with Finn and JD, been tag team champions, lost the tag team titles, and so on. War Raiders, they're around. And that's kind of it, isn't it? American Made was on TV, but then for much of 2025, felt like they were just gone. Sure, we could expand the tag division to Braun and Bronson. They teamed up with the Vision, but they never went for the tag belts or even sniffed them. LWO was around, but then very much not on TV. Alpha Academy, they not around that much, not focused on. We're focusing on Raw because SmackDown's got its own thing going on in the tag division. They really put some effort in there to build a lot of teams, and it feels like Raw really could have used one or two of those tag teams. Like, I'm thinking of the Street Profits, even especially right now in December. They really could use the Street Profits on Raw to shake it up a bit. And where we are right now, we have AJ Styles and Dragon Lee as tag team champions, a thrown together team, but I'm optimistic they'll do something really creative and fun with them. I hope that for 2026, they can really double down on this tag division to make it compelling. Because one of the things that's lacking, and I think it's almost a theme for this video, is that they are lacking stories. And if we're looking at the tag division, that is one of the big things. There's no real stories other than these teams want to get belts to be champions. Speaking of champions, Jey Uso, World Heavyweight Champion, former World Heavyweight Champion Jey Uso. We got to talk about Jey Uso because he's had quite the 2025, hasn't he? He wins the Royal Rumble, he goes to WrestleMania to fight Gunther, he wins the World Heavyweight Championship, and he has been polarizing, I guess, in the eyes of fans. Live crowd absolutely loves Jey. They love his entrance, they love everything he does, and if you spend more than 5 minutes online, you will see everyone crapping on Jey Uso that they are over the Yeet Man, they hate it, they hate when he runs it back in the matches like he did in War Games. There is so much pushback on Jey Uso, the character. And that's also something in this whole theme of the video, is that I'm not taking issue with the wrestlers. It's the creative, the writing, the storytelling behind it, the decisions that they seem to make for their characters on television and what they're doing with it. So if we look at the Gunther Jey Uso feud, a feud that we had with the Intercontinental title, it went to the world title. I never found it that interesting, and I think that they were doing a kind of a disservice. He had the momentum of the Royal Rumble win, and I felt like they just could not figure out how to get into the second gear between the two of them. The only saving grace was leading to WrestleMania. They did that one moment on Raw where Jimmy got involved, he got beaten down and destroyed by Gunther, and that I felt really helped that whole feud. The match was fine at WrestleMania. Jay's taps out Gunther didn't make a whole lot of sense, and he went on to have his world title reign that didn't last very long, and he lost the world title again on Raw. Since WrestleMania, it was 51 days, I looked it up, that he held the World Heavyweight Championship. Not very long, and I'm okay with short title reigns, to be honest, because sometimes, like if you look at Cody, and you just look in the history of things, sometimes people have the belts way too long. There's a delicate balance here. But I don't feel that where we are today, if we look at Raw, as we've gone through his title reign, through to the summer where he was feuding endlessly with the Vision, it wasn't very compelling for Jey. We'll talk about the Vision next in just a moment, but focusing on Jey Uso, one of the compelling storylines that they flirted with was this dynamic between him and his brother Jimmy and Roman Reigns. And it has been so on and off throughout 2025, and not in a good way, like they're teasing and planting seeds and then they paid it off. They never paid it off. I have been wanting to see not necessarily a heel turn from Jey, but deeper character. And with this past Monday night on Raw, where I'm filming this, Jey completely loses his mind in the post-match because he lost in the tournament to LA Knight, which I think was a great decision, because now I'm interested to see what happens next with Jey. How is he going to react? Is he going to go heel? Is he going to do dastardly things? We don't know yet. But throughout the whole summer and in the fall, one week Jey is having issues with Jimmy. The next week they're shaking hands and they're totally on board and they're best brothers and tag team partners and they're all good. One week Roman is on TV backstage with Jey telling him he's got to do it on his own. And Jey is like looking like he's got to turn his back on everybody. Turns back on LA Knight and butting heads with CM Punk. And then it just kind of dropped. The consistency with Jey's character is what's missing. And they've got to finally, I hope, pull the trigger on something different and more dynamic in 2026 for him. But what about the Vision? Because Jey has been wrapped up in the Vision business, and the Vision since WrestleMania, and that Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, Braun Breaker teams up with Seth Rollins. That was the whole story for 2025. That on Raw, I think, was the WWE Raw story for the whole year. That was their big A storyline, where you brought in the huge cast of characters from Seth, Braun, Bronson, Paul Heyman, later on Logan Paul, feuding with CM Punk, Jimmy J, Roman, LA Knight, week after week after week, and especially through the summertime, it was rinse and repeat. There are elements with this whole Vision story early on that I really thought was interesting, but kind of like Jey, I felt like it never got to the next level. One of the things I felt was missing with the entire Vision story while Seth was still around was the backstage dynamics between all of them. You'd get it a little bit here and there, but one of the things I had missed and was hoping they were going to do was explore the character dynamics between Seth and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. And once in a while on a PLE or on Raw, you would see that tension. I wanted to see more of that, kind of like what they did with the Bloodline for years and why those characters became so captivating. It was constant promos in the ring, the 20-minute Vision segments to open Raw, Seth laughs all the time, Paul Heyman talks everybody up, and interrupt with CM Punk or Jey or Jimmy or Roman, beatdowns happen, end of Raw would end time after time after time, week after week, with a Vision beatdown. Disqualification finish, no contest, or a match would finish between Braun and CM Punk or somebody or Jey, and then you'd have the Vision beatdown. And the babyface would get the upper hands, or the heels would get the upper hands. And this sent, I think, a lot of fans just in a tizzy, as they say, about their feelings towards this entire story and why it started to really taper off. You did get the spike of excitement when Seth did get injured, unfortunately, but Braun Breaker turns his back on him, and you had that big what if moment of what's going to happen next with Braun, the world title, and everything completely cooled off because I think they were going to get to War Games, and where we are today at the end of the year, seems like they're trying to heat Braun Breaker back up to get to WrestleMania. And one of the people that they feuded with throughout the year that really started to get pulled back a lot, LA Knight. LA Knight was on SmackDown forever, and then he started mixing it up with the Vision here and there, where they would do run-ins and attack LA Knight on SmackDown and vice versa. He would come over to Raw, and then he finally was just firmly and drafted over to Monday Night Raw, which I think was a great move for WWE. Give LA Knight a fresh coat of paint and new feuds, new adversaries every single week. But the Vision stuff, like I mentioned, I didn't think it really helped LA Knight all that much, and, well, everybody else, because of the almost repetitive nature of the stories. Every single week, LA Knight gets beat down, there's tension between him and Jey and CM Punk. Sure, there's some good promo action in there between Punk and LA Knight, but even that, LA Knight versus CM Punk, singles match that we never really got. A storyline we never really explored, at least yet. But we fast forward LA Knight's story, and he's always been flirting with the World Heavyweight Championship, and I think a huge segment of the audience and fan base have been hoping and wishing that he would get a title run or get those one-on-one singles matches for the world title. And where we are now, he's moving on, and the last time is now tournament. He's going to go up against Gunther, which I suspect Gunther is winning. And for weeks and all through Survivor Series month or season, LA Knight was completely off TV or on the back burner and not really being moved forward. Hopefully 2026 they can do more with Mr. Knight. Now bringing me to CM Punk. I'm not going through every character, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going through kind of the top guys, the top names that you have on Raw and their biggest storylines that are kind of circulating all these people. CM Punk is currently your World Heavyweight Champion, and through 2025 I have not been very impressed with Punk and the stories for CM Punk. His forever feud with Seth Rollins has had highs and lows. Steel cage matches, the lead up to WrestleMania, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there going to the triple threat match. But I've been a CM Punk fan for many, many years, and not all his work is, home runs every single week, and not every week can be a pipe bomb and a giant promo that he cuts into everybody. But what has been missing for me as a CM Punk fan has been the grittiness, the back against the wall, anti-authority CM Punk. Every week for Punk seemingly is it great to be alive in this city? He does the promo, he's happy to be here, he's enjoying his time on Raw. And then he gets involved with people, and sure, there are some promos that I feel like, oh, that was fun, that was engaging, it had more edge to it, not Adam Copeland, but it was very captivating. And a lot of times, it hasn't been. And that's disappointing for me just as a fan. I just want to see more. And him winning the World Heavyweight Championship, I think it's great. I think WWE had to pivot because Seth got injured. But with CM Punk being world champion, I haven't felt like he's really stood out that much. This is his world title run, coming back to WWE, his first one. It's not that great. It could just be timing because, again, he won the title because Seth got injured. Then we got into War Games, so he's not into a proper singles feud. And because we're going to be leading to WrestleMania season, hopefully now that very focused storyline can come out. Okay, let's shift gears though, and let's look at the women and the world title scene, the women's world title scene. Stephanie Vaquera is your current women's champion. And before that, you had Naomi as the women's champion. She won Money in the Bank, cashed in, she got that world title. I was so excited to see what Naomi was going to do. Her character change and coming over to Raw, all big wins for Matt over here. Somebody new and fresh in the division, a brand new character, and Naomi just hitting home runs with the promos and just a fun, evil character. I loved it. I was just sad and happy for her that she's going to have baby and she's not on TV now, but when she comes back, it'll be big pop and everyone will be happy again. But the world title scene has been kind of, lukewarm in my eyes. Io Sky had the World Heavyweight Championship for a while. Naomi gets it. The baby announcement happens. Stephanie Vaquer is now world champion. Stephanie not really in any compelling feuds. Kind of like Punk and other people. Nothing clicking. A Nikki Bella feud. You got Crown Jewel stuff. You got champion versus champion. Not having a proper singles feud that has a compelling story or reasons behind it. Just some good matches or fine matches by her. But the world title, kind of secondary. Storyline I have liked with the women has been the Rhea Io story against Asuka, Kairi Sane, mostly because of Asuka, and I really liked her dynamic with everybody. I like Kairi Sane's dynamic with Asuka and how they have built that story through 2025. Right now, as we get to the end of the year, I do think it's cooling off a little bit. I think they need to add new wrinkles, but one of those new wrinkles, I think that they're doing a really great job, like we saw on Raw, is expanding the women's tag team title scene. Judgment Day back in there. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte in there. Bayley and Lyra. Everybody, all these huge names in star power, all going for the tag team titles. It's interesting. So I'm very interested of what directions they will go with this, what feuds they can build out of it, breakups, teases. There's a lot in there that they can build towards. But that world title just seems, again, like the tag team titles are more focused now than the women's world title, in my opinion. I'll quickly mention as well, Roman Reigns. All over the map here, ladies and gentlemen, but that's okay. Roman, throughout 2025, it's Roman Reigns. And at this point, I'm happy when I see Roman on TV. Sometimes I get funny promos, like he's got between Cody and Punk, where he's saying, whip it out. That's hilarious. But Roman Reigns' appearances, I think that's what everyone expects now. Roman comes in for the big PLEs and the large story pieces throughout the year, your WrestleMania, your SummerSlams, and your Survivor Series, and then it's going to be the Royal Rumble in the new year. I did like that he put over guys like Bronson Reed, but Roman not really being in the huge leading role in the giant captivating story like he was in the Bloodline. And even then, he wasn't on TV every single week. The Bloodline helped lift those segments even in Roman's absence, but he was always kind of there in the background, right? Because Roman Reigns is now on his own as a character, it's not as compelling anymore, and I hope that they can do more as they go to WrestleMania season with maybe a third match against Cody. Maybe he does something with CM Punk, we don't know. But I hope I can get more of that captivating stuff from Roman Reigns. And the IC title, that's another thing I will just touch on here before we wrap up today, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, if you enjoy videos like this, help me out and hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way, help support the show, help us grow. The men's Intercontinental title scene, I've enjoyed Dom as IC champion. Obviously, he lost it to Cena. He got it back from Cena. But I wish they did more with the surrounding characters in there, like your Rusevs, your Pentas, your Sheamus, and get them built up in compelling stories surrounding the Intercontinental title, wanting it. It's been on Dom for so long, and that might be good or bad in your eyes. But the one thing that I felt WWE dropped the ball with the IC title, and I guess with Dom, is the tension and the storyline with Finn Balor. Teasing a breakup, teasing Finn wanting to push Dom out of the group. Obviously, when Liv got injured, it felt like all of that got really paused. And now Liv is back, so maybe we'll see that dynamic change and we will finally get a breakup or some compelling story. It just felt like on and off week after week, Finn and Dom were clashing, butting heads. Other weeks, 100% fine, and they haven't fallen through with any of it for an entire year on Raw. I think that's one of the big misses here is that they didn't go a step further. So how was Raw in 2025 for you? I know it's a lot of the negative stuff here, and I did try to throw in things that were compelling, and we'll probably do a whole video on stuff that was just awesome on Monday Night Raw for 2025. But I think one of the gaps for me has been those stories, because I think that is the common theme as I've gone through this, that for me as a fan, I'm missing the big compelling story arcs. You might have someone on your list that you're like, hey man, this was my favorite thing that they did on WWE programming. I hope in 2026 we see kind of a reset. I think they're missing those big cinematic storylines that they built a couple of years ago. Felt very safe on Raw, but I'll stay optimistic that we'll see some fun stuff in 2026. Comment below your thoughts, Raw, Netflix for 2025. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. See ya.